The first thing that I'll point out is that I'm actually using the SCX10 Honcho that was customized for G6, a Recon G6 competition in Florida, and probably at least 10 years ago. I really like the Toyota kind of feel, the accessories in the back, so having the spare tire, some tools, water cooler, and even a doggo in the back there. I just think it has a cool look, some extra straps there for pulling. But the problem is this body never really performed well for me because of the weight balance on this body. If I just put on this finger, as you can see, it goes straight back. So this is not a great setup for weight bias as far as your body. You can come back around here and it's starting to balance it right about here. But generally, you want your body not to have a lot of weight in the rear. So this body, while it appeared in some of the earlier videos, fender cuts, never really did a lot of justice. I always liked the look of it again, but it never really performed as I wanted it to. So that's where we had to make some adjustments on this build to accommodate for that. So let's talk about that. This is very much a stock machine, stock axles. It has an overdriven front end. There is overdrive in the front, no underdrive in the rear. Shock towers, frame, and at least a couple of the links, including the axles, the sliders, everything is still stock. And so I like doing that with these rigs because I find that the plastic axles work pretty good with the rocks that I drive on, just because they slide a lot better than metal. So no need to change there. Kept it as is. Do have the Proline dual stage shocks front and rear. That was part of the original build. I did rework the shocks to get them nice and smooth, both front and rear. But honestly, those shocks, they're not my favorite, and I could very easily see myself switching those out as a future upgrade. But for now, they're performing a lot better than I thought. So looking a little closer inside, you can see that I have the Fusion SE motor. This is a 1200. These motors are just kind of ridiculous. This is just to give you an idea of what it is right here. The performance of this motor is just amazing. The price is really competitive. I've gotten a couple of them now, and I really like them. So I think that's probably going to be a default motor that I go to for these type of restorative builds. It's super quiet, has the programmability you need, and you're eliminating the need for an external speed controller, which I really like as well. So if you can see in this one, it's pretty tidy, the actual receiver and the power button. Also, when I'm filming these videos, Tigger really wants to know what's going on, so I have to get a little footage of him as well. That's all right, buddy. Just filming a quick video, all right? You good with that? Okay, thanks. So here's a shot just showing the spur and pinion staying with 48 pitch on the teeth, and also from this angle you can see the MIP drive shafts that I'm using both in the front and rear. Moving up to the front, you can see the 35 kg Amazon special, this particular model. So here is the servo for anyone who's interested. You can find this on Amazon. Find that it works really well for me. You can see the steering setup up front, pretty straightforward. Servo and axle. See a little bit of the articulation here from the shocks. I actually used a piece of Delrin rod here to serve as my front stub bumper. Battery location right here, right next to the battery connector, so it makes it really easy to get some weight. Not too much. I usually run smaller packs, nothing larger than a 2200 in the front center. If I wasn't doing that, of course, I would just mount the battery on the opposite side from the motor to give it that weight balance. But I've found that this has worked out for me pretty well with respect to the weight balance of this vehicle. So without the battery in it, you can actually see, and it's balanced perfectly here. So you can see my hand is kind of towards the maybe the front bolt of the skid plate there, and it's just balancing real nicely there. So that's without the battery. Once you have the battery, gives it a little bit even more weight towards the front. And as you saw, if you watched the original video, the running footage of this, before I kind of revealed the rebuild, it performed amazing. And I want to talk about a little bit of the reason why. Now, the motor and the overdrive is an obvious, but in addition to that, there's some cool suspension geometry changes that have been made here. This originally is like a 12.5 wheelbase, and what you're looking at now is very close to 13. It's about 330 millimeters. It's an interesting geometry. My friend Mark has helped me with the rebuilding the top rods because the angles for the drive shafts were just way off, so we needed to clock the axles some, and we did that through modification and actually building of these new rods. And so if you see all four of these top rods here, you can see the ones in the back particularly well. Those are made of Delrin, and we fabricated those just recently to achieve the geometry of this build. And then in addition to that, in the front, it was a perfect angle, but I didn't feel like there was enough stretch. So I actually stretched the front end forward by using a heavy curved lower rear link in the front. I wasn't sure how that was going to ride, but as you can see in the running footage video that was the previous video to this one, the thing just performed. It just seemed to work a lot better than I've ever experienced this chassis, much less with the additional weight of the Honcho body with all the scale accessories in the back. So that really impressed me. I feel like now the performance is where I want it for a 10 to 15-year-old truck that I have done some upgrades to in 2024 to get it back out on the rocks, but have it perform and also just look good. I will point out that there's no weighting in these wheels. So one of the things that I might do in a more modern build, just because these are the original wheels, is have either a weighted bead ring, some form of weighting, weighted knuckles, some brass up front to help weight it down. But I really achieved most of that through here. And since it's got the overdrive, and then with the weight bias that we have, especially once the battery's in it, and I think the weight in the bed with the accessories and the extra caging, it does kind of help keep the rear planted as well. Not to mention the back end of this is amazing for catching itself instead of flipping completely backwards. If you look at the profile of that, it really has served as more of a benefit than a detriment for many of the experiences I've had driving it this far. So in a nutshell, this is not anything crazy. It's just an old SCX10 that had a few modifications done to it several years ago, probably a decade ago at least, and kind of pulled out, not been driven in several years, and given just the amount of love it needs to get it performing at a high level and has the aesthetic look that I'm going for. Again, imagine this kind of down a little bit. This is more where I would like to see it, not just for aesthetics, but honestly for performance as well. I think that'll give it a little extra stability, having the rear brought down some. So looking forward to that. Didn't mention this, but we got standard Dueces Wild Crawler Innovation foams in here. These foams are again at least 10, 12 years old. Run perfectly. The Super Swamper tires, G8 compound, this is a favorite of mine, and really I just love these tires, whether it's in a 2.2 or a 1.9. Some of my favorites, the Rock Beast obviously are another favorite of mine, but always enjoyed running the Super Swampers. I can remember growing up looking at the big trucks around. I always would see those big 48 Super Swampers and just be like, wow, I wish I could have that as a child. And so while I don't actually have a full-size rig that has that, we use razors for off-road buggy mainly. It's cool to have scale representations. Now this might not be a scale 48 Super Swamper necessarily, but the Super Swamper tread is just legendary to me, and the performance is there. These are pretty heavily worn in, so you can see, a little better focus there. You can kind of see it, but these have some great wear on them. I didn't really clean them up or nothing. Not too concerned about cleaning tires anymore these days. I just like to ride them, build the rigs, and occasionally film some stuff to show you guys. Excited to maybe do a few more things to play around with it. Again, bringing the rear end down a little. Considering this area here, and this is more of an aesthetic thing for me, but it could be possible that I could take some heat, since it's all just plastic anyway, and maybe bring curve these up a little bit to bring them up into that body. I'd like to see that. Give a little bit more clearance too, so there's nothing wrong with that. And doing some fabrication work here so that this actual body, not just the suspension, which I'd like to bring the suspension down, but the body itself could sit down just a little deeper into that chassis, because I think that would give it even more performance. You can see how this looks. You might be wondering what is going on here, and what are these holes for. In the G6 that we ran, I actually had a snub nose metal bumper with a winch on it, And additionally, there was an LED light that was mounted right here so that the light would be just above the winch. And I didn't need the winch poking out a lot. As you guys know, if you've ever run in any sort of a competition or just a fun run of sorts like a G6, you can easily get into trouble if you have too much sticking out forward. So the reason for that cutout is I recessed the winch and everything to the point to where the truck would actually be performing enough to run through a G6 course. So that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the SCX10 original 2024 rebuild. I have some other SCX10 chassis that I plan to do some things with. One of them is an SCX10-2. The other ones are all SCX10-1. And so this was the first SCX10-1 that I've done. Initially starting out, of course, you guys remember with the Wraith rebuild. It's running nice. That big Spektrum system in there. The Nightcrawler, which I had already gone through the running video and an overview of that, has one change since you guys saw it. And that change is sitting right down there in front of it. You see it right down there. And that's that Hobbywing Quick Run Fusion SE motor. And that has been placed in the Nightcrawler and the Spektrum 40 amp all-in-one setup with that older atomic 35 turn brush motor has been removed and all of it replaced with that Fusion setup, and it's amazing. The big reason I did that, guys, because I know it's just more money, right? And you might be wondering, well, if it worked, why would you do that, right? The main reason that I did that was because that 35 turn motor in the Nightcrawler had a super high pitch whine to it that I just couldn't stand. I mean, it was like the nails on chalkboard sound. So I had to get rid of that, and to do that I just had to get that motor right there, and it works like a dream. I think it's taken the truck to even another level. It was already performing really well, but now it's just insane. So I appreciate you guys joining in and really taking the time to stop by and check out what we have going on in the RCTogether workshop. If you guys like these type of videos, let us know in the comments. It's kind of fun making them, but I'll be honest, I really enjoy making running videos more than anything else. It just gives me a little bit more artistic freedom to be creative and do some cool stuff there. So thanks a lot for watching, and have a great day.